friends, it's Bernadette. Thank you for joining me in this class today. And this particular class about the arc is based on mediumship. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that's communicating with spirits on the other side. And that can be animals, that can be people. Lots of people claim to be able to talk to entities and beings from, off-world. Who knows? I've never done that, but doesn't mean it can't happen. And so whether you are taking this from a more shamanic perspective or just a plain old mediumship perspective, then I'm going to teach you how the animals can come to you, some ways of interpreting those messages, and using those messages, signs and symbols for yourself, as well as for clients. So it's important for you guys to know, before we get started, that I've been a practicing evidential medium for a little over 20 years. And when I teach classes, I am all about the evidence, which I should have said in the psychic class. I forgot about that. I was really focused on some other things, but let me tell you what that means. So through the years, when I've taken classes or trained students, I have noticed a lot of what I call lazy mediumship. And what that means is, you have a client come in and, the first thing they say is, my mom died. And the next thing you say is, I get the sense that you missed her very much. And she's, telling me she loved you very much. And she was a very nice person, right? And, and this, right. And the psychic or medium asks questions. They ask leading questions of the, of the client or the friend, or, hopefully you're not reading for family. That's a little too close, and you can never be 100% sure that the information that you're getting is pure. You might have heard, a name or a situation or something, and it's in your subconscious, and you would never know that. You're trying to do a good job, but you guys, the human brain processes millions and millions and millions of pieces of data like a minute. And so lots of times when we think we're doing a really great job, we're really not doing anything more than like a cold reading or, some of the tricks that the mentalists do. So again, when it comes to mediumship, as I teach it, it's very old school British, started in the spiritualist church, where they ask for specific pieces of evidence. The color of someone's hair, but not just the color of their hair. They'll ask for 5 or 6 pieces of evidence. How old were they when they passed? What did they pass of? Tell me something special that happened in your family, or tell me something special that if you're talking to somebody from the other side, tell me something special that happened, or something special that you gave the person that I'm talking to, my client, or they might call them the sitter. So as you work with your spirit, totem, and power animals, as you work with the arc, you can use any deck to help you with mediumship. And for some people, it's a nice, warm, cozy, safety banky. And on days when I am, maybe my internal battery is not quite as strong as it is on other days, I will pull my deck or one of my decks when a client comes in and I know that they want mediumship, because I know that the card that I pull is going to give me some kind of tipping off point to be able to connect with whoever it is that they want to talk to on the other side, which, by the way, includes animals. So it's important to know that when you're working psychically or you're working mediumistically and you're communicating with the animals on the other side, that makes you also an animal communicator. So animal communication does not just mean, somebody calls you and their Yorkshire Terrier is missing and they're trying to figure out where it's at, or their cat has gone into a funk and they want to know what's wrong with their kitty cat. It doesn't mean communicating with animals, just the animals that are here. It means communicating with their pets, or their companions, their loved, their beloved animals on the other side. But it also means communicating with the world of animal spirits. And let me show you a case in point. And I have this young lady's permission to use her name, so I'm going to do that. So 4 or 5 years ago, a young lady came to get a psychic reading. She'd never had one before. She was the cutest, sweetest little thing. And she was scared to death, college student. So I took a few minutes and I explained to her how my readings work, and that I wanted to be able to provide her evidence of whatever it was I was going to tell her. And so I said, I'm just going to ask you a few questions. I want to make sure I'm in your energy. And her name is Hope. And I said, Hope, I said, I got to tell you, I see you sitting in front of me in my office, but every other square inch of my office is filled with animals, and they're here with you to tell you you're going to do great. They're so very happy to have you, and they can't wait until you can work with them. Are you going to be a veterinarian? This poor kid about fell out of her chair. So the whole reading goes that way for, 15 minutes or so. And I said, Hope, honey, I said, have you lost a sibling? And she said, I have. And I said, well, I have your sister here, and she would like to tell you. And she said, no, that's not possible. And I said, oh, why not? And she said, well, I was supposed to be she said, I'm a twin, but my twin had to be removed in vitro. And she said, so she was never alive. She couldn't possibly be talking to you. So I took a second and I explained that a soul is a soul, whether that soul incarnates fully into this world or not, that I had souls talk to me who were on their way out of the world. I had a client one time who I kept seeing flowers and flowers and flowers, and this woman kept handing people flowers and then taking money, and she said, I don't know how you're talking to her. Her aunt or her grandmother was, while she was getting a reading, she was in hospice care and transitioning, and she'd owned a floral shop her whole life. And so I was like, well, maybe she's already left her body. Maybe she's bilocating with her spirit. Lots of us feel like the spirit that, animates this body is attached to a higher self. So we are kind of bilocating. Part of our spirit is one place, part of our spirit is here. Some of us believe that your spirit is never even in your body, that you're actually a body in a spirit. There are a lot of different schools of thought, but at the end of the day, I'd had the experience of that gal talking to me who was transitioning out, and she's not the first person, but this was certainly the first time that a baby who had not incarnated into this world was talking to me. And so she gave Hope some information and whatnot. So what this has to do with your deck, the Ark, what this has to do with mediumship is this. At the end of the reading, and again, I was using, at the time, I love plugging his deck because it's just so beautiful. The Secret Language of Animals by Chip Richards. I've been using it for a long time. And Hope said, well, I said, do you have any further questions? She says, well, how do tarot cards work? And I said, well, you want to be a vet, so let's use my animal deck. So I picked up my animal deck, and I'm shuffling my animal deck, and whee! For those of you that have worked with tarot and oracle cards, you know what happens. The right cards just kind of fly out of the deck, or they fall out of the deck and land on the desk or your feet or wherever. And out flips this card, and it slides across my desk in front of her, stops right in front of her, and we both looked and started to laugh, and I said, well, that card wants your attention. So Hope looks down at the card, and all of a sudden, she gets really, I know you can't see that so well. I'm hoping it'll focus in. She gets really, really rattled. And I was like, honey, are you okay? So I'm sorry, you guys, I can't, for whatever reason, it's not focusing, but maybe it'll do better over here. Maybe it's the glare. There we go. And I know it's backwards, but if you look at the very first word on the card, the very first word on the card is faith, then it's endurance, then it's journey, and then it's hope. Well, my client's name is Hope, and her twin's name was Faith. Well, to say I got goosebumps doesn't even begin to cover, I mean, it's not like I don't believe in the magic, and it's not like I don't trust spirit 1,000 jillion%, because I do. But this was just, this card of all cards came flying out of my deck, slides across my desk, lands right in front of this kid whose name is Hope, and her twin that I'd been talking to was named Faith. Okay, y'all, you can't make that up. You just can't. You cannot. And it was such a testament to how spirit, those who crossed over, those who transitioned, when they want to get your attention, they will get your attention. So, mediumistically, working with the deck, there are 9,000 ways that you can use the arc for getting messages from the other side. Now, in the add-ons, I don't have them, but I'm sitting in front of me, but in the add-ons, there's a mom and babies add-on pack. It's only 12 cards, but they are 12 really powerful cards because they show from both the earth, air, fire, water, and spirit perspective, lots of different relationships with lots of different animals and their baby or babies. And maybe somebody who's come in has lost their mom. You could use one of those, and depending on, you could flip one of those. Maybe you get the macaques who are, it's two of the most beautiful, just serene looking mom macaques breastfeeding their babies. Maybe you get that, and you find out mom passed from breast cancer, or maybe she was part of the La Leche League, or maybe mom had to help somebody else learn how to breastfeed, or maybe it has nothing to do with that at all. Maybe mom was just a really amazingly nurturing type of mom. There could be so much gleaned from that particular card. Maybe somebody lost their dad, and if I focus on, I actually just got a text a few minutes ago from a friend. I was getting concerned. I hadn't heard from him, and he just texted me just a few minutes ago that his dad passed away a couple weeks ago. So let's say that I pull a card for him regarding his dad, and it's interesting because I pulled a squirrel. Now, the squirrel is the Ace of Wands, and that is about divine blessings coming out of the sky, being handed to you. It's about divine messages coming to you right out of the sky. Squirrels, listen, they, well, you'll never know who this person is, but if there was one word that this guy's family could assign to him as a youngster, it would have been squirrely. And it's a term we use in the South. I'd have to really sit with it for a few more minutes, tap into that energy and see. But one of the meanings of squirrel is that they have a false relationship with food, meaning, they're always digging their holes and burying their food for winter, but a good majority of what they dig, they never fill those holes. It's meant to fool other animals that might be watching them, or other squirrels that might be watching them. And so it's a little bit about having a false relationship with food or with what you're squirreling away. Please nobody take offense to this. Please nobody take offense to, what I'm about to say, because I'm from a Jewish family, and this family is Jewish, and I happen to know their relationship with storing things away for rainy days, making sure there's always enough, making sure that, all these stockpiles of all these things are there. And so it could very well easily have something to do with that. So even though I'm not in the zone, I'm not in an altered state of consciousness, I trust the animal kingdom, the world of spirit, to send me the right card. And all I wanted at the right time for the right person with the right message. And all I wanted to do at that moment was hear from his dad. Ta-da! That could very easily be it. Now, it's a little thin, okay? That's a little thin on the evidence, because I do happen to know that family, but that could have been any card. And the symbolism, in many different respects, fits that. So, let's talk about messages. Now, it's not enough just to connect with someone from the other side. It's not enough just to be able to give them evidence. I feel like your younger brother is here. He had red hair. He was maybe 13 or 14, maybe 13 to 17 when he passed. I feel like it was a car accident. Okay. And that is amazing and astounding. Yay for you. But that's not the important part to a client. The important part to a client is, do they have a message for me? Do they forgive me? Do they love me? Are they watching out for me? And those are great messages, to be sure, but are they the only messages that we should try to get or try to hear or try to receive from the other side? And in my experience, that's a little thin also. Now, when you can say to them, your little brother is here, and he's telling me that you should get rid of the guilt because you switched cars at the last minute. You guys were on your way to something. You were supposed to ride in his car, the car he was in. He was supposed to ride in the car you were in. You didn't want to ride with stinky Grandma Ethel, so you made him do it because he was your younger brother and you made him. And he passed and you didn't. Okay, that's a message. That's evidence. That is cathartic. It is healing. And that is what, in my opinion, and it is what I teach in classes, that's what you should strive for when you're working mediumistically, right? And the animals can help you do that. Now, there is a quick story, well, it's a story that I'd like to tell you. And other than hope and faith, it's truly the most amazing proof of life after death that I've ever been witness to in my life. And I'm so very sorry for this family's loss. And I am so very humbled and grateful to have been part of this happening. When I think about it still, and it was a couple of years ago, when I think about it still, it just absolutely brings me to my knees. So I was giving a class about spirit, totem, and power animals to a group in Tampa that's a branch of a national group called Helping Parents Heal. And it's a group for parents, a support group for parents who've lost children, but it's got a spiritual / metaphysical basis to it. So the growth of this group has been absolutely astounding. They are such a top-notch organization. So if you or somebody you know has lost a child and is really needing support, please look up Helping Parents Heal. So when I first got there, this gal walks in. She was wearing arguably the most beautiful blouse I'd ever seen in my life. Watered silk, big, giant, colorful, gorgeous cabbage roses. I couldn't take my eyes off this gal's shirt. I couldn't stop looking at it. So she was introduced to me, and my friend who asked me to speak there that evening, she introduced me as the psychic medium that was going to talk about spirit, totem, power animals. And this gal went from, "Hi, my name is," to, once the introduction was made, "Hello." And I mean, she was scrutinizing me like a hawk is hunting for dinner. And I thought, she's in pain, she's this, okay. So we get to, the first part of their meeting is about everybody, introducing themselves and sharing a little bit about their story, what they're looking for. And lo and behold, her daughter Rose, and I thought, that's why she's wearing the shirt. Her daughter Rose had been murdered, and this gal is an attorney. So I just thought to myself, and I sent it out into the universe, "Rose, honey, I don't think your mom is a believer," because it was the first type of this meeting she's ever been to. And she just, metaphysics and spirituality, this lady was at her absolute last straw, or she never would have been at this meeting. And you'll have a lot of clients like that if you're studying, to be a professional psychic medium. Maybe you already are, but you're just starting. You will find that many people will come to your door that are not believers, but they don't have any more knots in their rope to hang on to. You're going to be the straw that broke the camel's back, or the person who unloads the load from their camel, truly. So, pardon me. So, we get to the time when I do my little talk, my little spiel about spirit, totem, power animals, and I just kept it on the spirit animal thing. So she kept watching me and watching me and watching me, and finally she goes, "Listen, I'm sorry, but what the F is a spirit animal?" And I just wanted to laugh, not at her, but I just really loved her authenticity, and I just loved it. So I took a minute or two and I explained, and I said, it can be a lot for people to believe in. I said, it's pretty easy to believe, the platforms, mediums, that are talking to people from the other side. It can be pretty easy to believe, the psychics that, you call them and you say, "I lost my passport," and you're like, "It's in a box in your mom's attic. It's laid up against the side, blah, blah, blah." I said, but, the world of spirit, totem, and power animals has been pretty much reserved for people who are interested in shamanism. And that's been, that's a little limited, though it's growing by crazy leaps and bounds. Just working with the animals, people haven't done it like this before. So she goes, "Well, I don't know how much I believe in this stuff, but," she said, my other daughter was supposed to be here with me, but she just couldn't do it. But she did call me, and she said that all of a sudden she wanted a snack and was just compelled to get up and go to the freezer where she keeps these little frozen Dove bars. Here's what Bernadette heard: Dove. That's an animal, right? And on Dove bars, they've got a little dove on them. Okay. I'm sitting there going, you already got a message from your daughter through spirit animals. I never said anything. And she passes around, and by the way, you can read this story on my blog, whatismyspiritanimal.com. And yes, of course, it's a pitch for my site, but it's also so that you can see the visuals. So she passes around this little silver wrapper, and on the wrapper it reads, put on or wear your rose-colored glasses. Okay, this lady's daughter, who was brutally murdered, her name is Rose. The woman shows up wearing a rose shirt, and oh, by the way, her daughter, who just can't bring herself to come to the meeting, was compelled enough to get up and get a snack. It happened to be a Dove bar. The talk is about spirit animals. And oh, by the way, doves are what? They are the enduring symbol for family. Yes, they are. And for health and wealth and longevity of family. That's why they're released at weddings. Right. So we get to the end of the meeting. She comes and she talks to me. And I told her what I believed to be the message. She goes, okay, thank you. And off she goes. So the meeting was in Tampa, which is a couple hours from my house. I stayed over with my friend. It was a long day, very emotionally charged at this meeting. We tumble into bed. It's like 11 o'clock. And I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of sleepy, but let me just check my messages. And I turn on my phone, which I had turned off, of course, while I was teaching. And ping, 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 ping. I got a bajillion text messages. And poof, there's a text message from a client and friend. She started out as a client and we became very close friends. And there is this, she sent me a picture of this coffee mug and it's got a wine bottle next to it. And it reads, "Rosé is my spirit animal." I just looked at that and I was like, this poor kid is trying so hard to get through to her mom. So I text message a little bit with my friend. I'm like, you have no idea what a gift you just gave this lady. I'll tell you the story on another day. And I go knock, knock, knock on my friend's door. And she's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, you've got to see this. You've got to see this. You've got to see this. So it's midnight. Well, 11:30. And we're now text messaging Rose's mom. And I just, okay, yeah, it's rosé, but come on, really? Rose, rosé, tomato is my spirit animal? Y'all, spirit animals, totem animals, power animals, animal allies, whatever you want to call them, they will help you get in touch with your loved ones on the other side. They will help you get in touch with your clients' loved ones on the other side. You've just got to trust and you've just got to call them in. And it can be anything. Let's say, I'm just going to draw a random card. Okay. So here's the frog, the Four of Cups, right? So maybe, maybe grandpa passed. Maybe he was a little bit grumpy. Maybe he was a little bit miserly. Or maybe he worked with, amphibians as a scientist. Or maybe. There can be a million reasons. Maybe, who was that one time? I did a reading for a gal, and all I could see were tree frogs. But I didn't really count that as like a for real message because we live in Florida, and where are there not tree frogs, especially if you live near water, which, Florida's a peninsula, and those of us that live in North Florida, there's always some kind of lake or river or swamp or something around us. But when I told her tree frogs, she just started laughing because they were having a tree frog infestation at their cabin on the river, the likes of which she'd never seen in 20 years. She's like, you just can't go outside in the dark because you're just going to step on them. They're going to get in your hair. She said, it's like the movie The Birds. It's crazy. And there was a whole big message, and it wasn't just about frogs. It was about tree frogs in particular, but you just never know. Or you might look at this and you might take a look at that frog's skin and you might say, I feel a male energy, and it might be a female energy, but let's just, I feel a male energy, and you might not be sure. Is it brother? Is it uncle? Is it friend? Is it husband? Is it, grandpa, great grandpa? but I feel like there's a military connection, because when I looked at this card, I know somebody watching this video, watching this class, took one look at this card when I pulled it up, because I can hear your laughter, and laughed because you went, oh my God, that looks like my grandpa. I can feel it, I can hear it. And then when I started, and by the way, message me if it's you, whenever it is, if it's a year from, now when the cards came out, originally in November of 2019, if it's, I can feel it, that you could hold a picture of your grandpa up next to the picture of this frog card, and it would be like those memes you see on the internet, this person looks like this animal, so on and so forth. But I'm particularly, as I step more into that energy, I'm really particularly drawn to the skin and how that looks like camouflage. And it makes me see military uniform in my mind's eye. And even though frog lives on both land and water, so they're walkers in both worlds, I keep being drawn to the sky. I keep feeling like this frog is up high. So I don't know if this person flew jets, flew planes, was a plane mechanic, but had something to do with being up high. So that's just from drawing a frog card, or any other card. You can get, it can really, really help you connect with loved ones from the other side. But that said, I really want to encourage you to be patient, be courageous, and wait for the evidence to come through. Don't badger your client, was it this? Was it this? Are you sure? Was it this? Could it have been this? That's not their job. Your job is to be the conduit between the world on the other side and this world, to give the messages. And I promise you, the more confidence you have, the more confidence the world of spirit will have in you. Which leads me to another thing, filtering. Okay, so in my beloved Arthur Findlay Academy over in England, which teaches the very traditional spiritualist method of mediumship, which I personally think is some of the finest mediumship I've ever encountered in my life. They are the original platform mediums that did demonstrations on stage where a group of people would just show up and they would just deliver messages. They've got a checklist that they hand you of like 30 things that you should be asking the spirit to give you as evidence, so that you as the medium and the client or the sitter can know that that it's Uncle Henry, or it's Aunt Betty, or it's mom, or it's your dog, or your gerbil, or whatever it is that passed. They're very careful about what they say to their clients, because it's not considered proper to be emotional still over in England. They're just showing emotion or being the cause of somebody to show kind of that deeper emotion. That's not necessarily okay with them. And so they do a thing called filtering messages, where if they feel like it's too uncomfortable, or it's a subject that might be embarrassing or emotionally charged, especially if they're, now what they do in private, I don't know in a private session, but on their platform mediumship, if you've got somebody and there are 150 or 250 or even 25 other people in the audience, they filter what they say to the person when their loved one shows up. Bernadette doesn't teach that. Here's why. And again, this is my opinion. And there are many people in the States that handle things that way. Mediums in the United States that handle it that way. I have never seen evidence that taking away information that's being given to you for someone is of value. I have never seen or witnessed or experienced spinning something, to use your own words, because you think it's going to soften a message. I have never seen that be helpful, because let's say that, because I have had this happen, let's say that you get in touch with a real Southern cracker. Now, I'm from the South, and I'm real familiar with the lingo. But let's say that you get a message from someone's husband who passed away, and instead of telling her, you know, listen, this fella's telling me that that's some bitch, blah, 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 blah. Instead of telling her that, you say something like, well, he's telling me that this other fella, who may not have been the nicest person, likely blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't resonate with her, but her husband always said some bitch, not son of a bitch, but some bitch, like they do here in the South. Because that really happened to me one time. You are denying your client the experience of truly knowing in the deepest, deepest part of her heart that you are truly, truly talking to her deceased husband. That is not cool. You're also not in this line of work for you. You're in it to serve. Now, am I telling you, you know, to put yourself aside and don't treat yourself well, or, you know, get involved in hinky things or dangerous things or not healthy things, you know, because you're there to serve? Of course I'm not telling you that. But what I am telling you is your judgment can very often be wrong. And I have observed on many occasions that the world of spirit will start backing away when you start not delivering the way that they're asking you to deliver. Now, I can't prove this, but my understanding is it takes a tremendous amount of energy for them to manifest and show up and come through and give messages from beyond the veil. And if you've done this work, you've done mediumship work, you know what energy it takes to open up and be a hollow bone and get to that place of that altered state of consciousness. Whether you've done it in a shamanic journeying class, whether you've done it in any kind of mediumship class whatsoever, it ain't easy. It's not. And it takes stamina, and it takes focus, and it takes commitment. So just know that the more the world of spirit knows that they can trust you, the more that they will come through with those messages. I promise you they will. And it really is about establishing a relationship with the world of spirit, not just the human spirits, but all of the animal spirits as well, because you just never know. Once upon a time, I owned a metaphysical store. Oh, I miss it. I wish Gainesville could support a metaphysical store. I'd open one again. So I was a young medium, and when I first started into this world, I went into the store, and I worked out a deal where they would allow me to read for free, because I wanted to read people for free until I felt confident that I was giving evidence on a regular enough basis that I could charge. And so I took a year and I read 400 people for free. So a couple of years after that, I had a family coming in, and I'm sitting at the front desk, and I was staring off into space, kind of getting into my zone, and out of the corner of my right eye, I saw just a burst of yellow light, and this bird fly through this yellow light and then just disappeared. I thought, okay. So I said to the other gal in the store, I said, you haven't lost a bird recently, have you? She said, well, we had a chicken die this morning. I said, no, chickens don't fly like that. So, I said, and I personally have only seen spirit, and it's all been animals, by the way, 5 or 6 times in the 20-something years I've been doing this. There are people that claim to see them standing right there, and I don't doubt that. I absolutely believe there are people for whom the clear sight is their thing. It's never been my thing. So these folks walk in, Hispanic family, and why that's important is Dad was the most machismo. Hello, my name is, and he kind of sounded like Zorro, and he just really needed to be that guy. Okay, so they wanted to be read as a family. Okay, let's do that. Each person gets like 15 minutes. There are 4 of them. So I turned around and I looked at the mom, and then I looked at the dad, and I said, by any chance, have you lost, like, it passed away, a little yellow bird? Well, Zorro just dissolves into tears because his beloved yellow canary, Petey, had just passed away a few weeks before. Okay, so if I had not taken the chance, if I had not had the courage to ask, if I had not followed my gut to ask, and I got to tell you, I don't know that this guy heard anything else in this mediumship session, because he was toe up from the flow up about his yellow canary, Petey. And he just left there a big mush of a ball of a man because his Petey showed up. So, Petey the yellow canary. So, pardon me, I'm going to grab a sip of water. So you've got to do what you're comfortable with, obviously, but from the way that I teach it and the way that I practice it, striving to have the patience, the confidence, the courage to wait for the messages to unfold, the stories to unfold, to get the evidence is so important. Not just for you, the reader, but for the world of spirit. Because listen, you guys, there are just not enough really good mediums in this world. There's just not enough. And I mean really good mediums. Now, let me just address one thing. There are people who will argue that if someone comes to a reading, a mediumship session, and let's say that as the medium, you receive the information that it's their dog or their grandma or whomever that they want to hear from, and maybe you get that this person was tall and thin, like olive oil tall and thin, and maybe you get that this person was a school teacher, but you get nothing else, and all you can tell them is they watch over you, they love you, they miss you, they're in a better place. Okay, great. And there are those that will argue that that's exactly what that person needed to hear that day. And who are you, Bernadette King, to tell them that it's not good enough? I didn't say it wasn't good enough. What I said was, to be clear, that you can go deeper and spirit will go deeper with you. Let's say that Olive Oil Granny, is looking over your sitter, your client, and knows that they hate their job, and really what they want is to go back to school to be a medical professional of some kind, a nurse, radiology tech or whatever, or even an admin. And Olive Oil Granny comes through and says, listen, I've got your back. Your entire line of ancestors has your back. You should go to school. You're smart enough. You're good enough. You can do this. You should do this. that's a message. And I'm not saying grandma loves you, and grandma misses you, and grandma's always there for you. I'm not saying that's not a message. I'm saying that for a person who's in turmoil, feeling absolutely trapped in their life, in their career, who desperately wants to do something, and for whatever reason is not getting the encouragement or not discussing it with anyone else, hearing that from grandma can change their life forever. Likewise, it can change their life forever if you have something uncomfortable to tell them that would be uncomfortable for them. I get it a lot. Is my partner cheating on me? Now, Bernadette does not answer that question because that's an allegation, and I don't do that. And I say to my clients, I will not answer that question directly. I will not do that. But let's say that Granny Olive Oil is there, and Granny Olive Oil does not like the partner. I will say, well, I can tell you your grandmother doesn't like your partner. And I can tell you that your grandmother is telling me that there will come a day that you will learn beyond a shadow of a doubt some very uncomfortable truths about your partner, and you will very likely split from this person, and then your life will begin. You'll be the phoenix. Grandma probably put it to me like that because in return for being the conduit for spirit, my relationship with them is that I ask them never to give me information in such a way that it causes me to have to cross what I consider ethical boundaries. And for me, as a medium, an ethical, or as a psychic, as a shamanic practitioner, an ethical boundary is, yes, definitively your partner is cheating on you. Now, I also have had situations where business people have come in and want to know if their business partner is embezzling, cooking the books, doing this, gonna leave, gonna this, gonna that, and I will handle it the same way. And if one of their beloved whomever shows up and is the one giving me the information, then I ask that spirit give it to me in a way that can warn them, can alert them, can give them just enough evidence that will make them investigate further or face something they really don't want to face. And that's my agreement with spirit. And you've got to know that is you can create whatever relationship with spirit that you want to create. And what that means is the spirits that will come to you will be the ones that are willing to abide by that and honor your wishes. And then the ones who won't just will never show up, and you'll never know about them. You'll never hear from them. So again, I've gone overtime. What a surprise. I'm such a big mouth. But I hope you learned. I hope this was valuable for you. If you've got questions, Bernadette at whatismyspiritanimal.com. You can, if you haven't joined us on Facebook yet, please join us on Facebook at the Arc Tarot. And I thank you so very, very much for supporting the Arc. And I wish you the very, very best of luck in creating your relationship with the animal allies and the humans on the other side. Take care, everybody. Bye.